What's going on, y'all? It's Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and welcome to another episode of FSG's podcast. It's a pleasure to be here with y'all, chatting more big picture industry trends and how FSG's thought leaders and subject matter experts are helping to deliver on real changes for the industries that matter most. Again, if you're looking for more episodes of our show, if you're looking for more information about FSG's solutions and services, make sure you're heading to FSG.com and subscribing to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All right, let's go ahead and dive in, folks. We've got a jam-packed episode today, and quite the bright one, pun intended. So from Friday night lights to pro-level arenas, we're chatting sports lighting today, right? Lighting has always been part of the game, but in today's sports facilities, it's doing more than just flipping the switch and literally lighting the event, right? The sports lighting is transforming how athletes perform, it transforms how fans engage, and more importantly, how venues operate behind the scenes. There's been a lot of transformations and improvements in sports lighting. So as LED technology and smart systems start to redefine the field and the operational workflow, one thing is pretty clear. The right lighting isn't just about visibility. It's about experience, efficiency, and future-proofing your facility to some of these evolutions in technology. So how do you know when it's the right time to upgrade? That's the big question here, right? How do you know when it's time to pull the plug and install some new lighting for your facility? What kind of performance and savings should you expect? What's the ROI that should be driving these renovations and these improvements? How can facility managers, for example, navigate the technology, all the stakeholders, and the incentives to get it right? That's what we're covering on today's episode of the podcast. And here to provide his expert analysis and to give us some strategies for action is Dan McLaughlin. He's Director of Sales at FSG Dallas. He's helped various facilities across the country modernize their lighting strategies with precision and purpose. He's got a sense for how this slice of the industry is evolving and how you can gauge when it's time to invest and how to do it right for some new sports lighting. So Dan, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
Good, Daniel. Thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Two
Great.
Dans walk into a podcast.
I know. It sounds like a bad joke coming.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully it has a good punchline.
I hope so.
But man, thank you again for joining and looking forward to picking your brain on this today.
Great.
So to kick things off, let's give our audience a little bit of context on you. Can you share a bit more about your background and really your experience in this slice of the industry, right? What kind of work have you done around sports lighting in the past so that folks can get a better sense of your POV?
Well, a lot of my history is dealing in distribution, dealing with contractors and governmental facilities that install and purchase those lightings. And in about the last 15 years, I have pretty much concentrated solely into lighting. And I'm in my 12th year at FSG with a great team over here, very smart, intelligent people that understand lighting from start to finish.
Awesome stuff. Thanks for the elevator pitch there. Okay, let's dive in. So, sports lighting, right? I imagine it's one of those aspects of the sports experience that is taken for granted by a lot of people involved, whether it's the athletes or the fans, right? But the facility managers know just how important it is, and they've been feeling the shifts around sports lighting approaches and technologies. I'm curious if you can ground that shift for us, right? How has sports lighting evolved in your view over the past decade, right? Whether it's technology, whether it's how smart these systems are, how they integrate with other ecosystems of tech. How is that landscape shifting, and how has it changed in the last 10 years?
Well, thank you for that. Over the past decade, sports lighting has undergone a significant transformation from traditional metal halides and high-intensity discharge systems to LED technology. Okay. We're seeing that tremendous growth in that market right now. Initially, sports facilities relied on incandescent and halogen back in the day, and they were very energy intensive and had a short lifespan. Obviously, by the mid-20th century, metal halides became the standard due to their brighter output and long lifespans compared to earlier technologies, but they have drawbacks. For example, it takes, you've seen that before. It used to be in the old stadiums when something happened, they lost the power, it take 10 to 15 minutes to put the lights back on. High energy consumption and rapid performance degeneration. For example, they lose 25% of their output in 250 hours. So LED has really revolutionized sports lighting, and it's been marked by improvements in energy efficiency, light quality and durability, and control capabilities. And so today they're obviously the choice. Almost all the pro stadiums are going that way. And for new installations, everything's going LED, and retrofits driven by advancements in the lumen output, color rendering, and smart technology integration.
Nice. So how far along is the industry in this adoption of LED? Are we still seeing a lot of old school lights running and operating in everything from your local high school stadium to professional arenas? Or have we seen certain segments of the sports venue market already complete this transition more or less to LED?
Well, I think that a lot of the pro teams, that if they haven't all crossed over to LED, they're on their path to doing that now. You're seeing a lot of the colleges do it now. Certainly, they've understood the ability to customize the lighting displays, to do different things to enhance the whole effort of the game and the whole physical ability for people to get involved in the game. So, and what we're seeing now is it's moving down to the local high schools, the middle schools, and even to the municipalities that are now saying, well, look, I've got all these ball fields that people playing all the time. It's time to upgrade those, and we want to put some LEDs in there. That's what we're seeing right now.
You mentioned smart systems as well, automation, right? This sort of ecosystem of big data that is capturing insights from how those lights are used, and then also improving how they're used in this positive feedback loop. As well as, another little asterisk here, integrating with other smart systems and being just one piece of this dynamic smart ecosystem, whether that's music, connectivity, you name it. So what role do you see that automation layer playing in this new era of sports lighting, right? Why is it important, and how does it complement this LED revolution as well?
Well, when they look at doing a sports lighting, as we're seeing, especially now it's moving down to high schools, which is great. They've always had the metal halide lamps up there, and the same thing's been the same way for 50 years.
Right.
But now they can put in LED fixtures that are 50 to 75% less energy usage, provides more light, 100,000 hours, less maintenance, and they can control it, and they can put now colored RGB fixtures in. For example, they can score a touchdown, and there's a big slideshow going back and forth. It's just like you see in a lot of downtown areas where people want to light up their buildings or light up their water towers and change it for it's Easter, it's Christmas. They can do the same thing now with pre-planned. You got a touchdown, you got a home run. It's a big light show, and hoopla and the clapping and everything. So people get into the game. It makes it more exciting and more fun.
That's one of the things that I love about lighting as a piece of the facility management puzzle is that it is so impactful for various battlefields, I guess, right, that facility managers are concerned with. Lighting impacts overall building efficiency, energy efficiency, right? Lighting is, one of those things that needs constant maintenance, or at least attention to proactive maintenance, right? When lights go out, it's one of the first things that end users notice. When that one bulb is flickering, it's a total distraction. And then to that point, lighting impacts experience. It's critical for how comfortable you feel in the space. If all your lighting is fluorescent hospital lighting, that might feel less inviting than dynamic, colorful, and more reactive lighting. So all that being said, it's cool seeing how this evolution of lighting technology is playing so many roles in improving sports facility management. I'm curious how you see that interplay happening in real time, right? How are you seeing venues out there actually making full use of improved lighting fixtures and systems to maximize energy efficiency, to improve maintenance, to improve game day experience, right? How are facility managers actually making best use of this tech?
Well, what they're doing now is they realize they can have better lighting. They can have cost savings with the payback on a job like that of 3 to 5 years. And it enhances the player performance and reduces risk for poor visibility. They got better color rendering today. And basically it's everything. It lasts longer. There's less maintenance. For example, if you get a light that goes out in a football stadium, you're talking, a couple $1,000s to have a bucket truck come out there and go back and repair that thing. So now they're basically having maintenance-free lighting for probably 10 to 20 years. It depends on what they have and what the usage is, but it's almost maintenance-free. And so that's very something that facility managers want to have is I don't want to have to worry about that field. And the other part they have is more people want to rent the field. They want to play ball there. They want to be able to do more venue and different things. They can utilize it in different ways now. And we're seeing that now come down the local level, which is really exciting for us because it's cities, the municipalities. I mean, how many ball fields does a typical city have? And they're playing at night. They're playing soccer. They're playing football. They're playing baseball. Well, now we can light those things up and they can stay up longer and cost them less money to run. And the people just enjoy it because it's even lighting, great distribution. And but people don't think about it. After a while, it's like, this is great. It's always been this way. It just makes everything better.
Yeah, totally. No, I like the fact that it's turning into a revenue driver, like you said. I mean, if these fields can get rented out for more use cases, or just sort of be the point of inspiration for, let's say, a small stadium that typically wouldn't have been used for a concert now is an attractive pick for a rising local musician. They've got the funds to perform there. Maybe it's not American Airlines Center in Dallas, but it's just as capable and it's going to tap into a local audience that cares about them, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just when you have that kind of dynamism to your lighting, it opens up a lot of doors, which is pretty cool. So I think we've painted the picture here of why this transition is happening, right? The technology behind it and why it's important, right? The ROI that comes from investing in new lighting fixtures and systems. But now let's talk about the actual process of upgrading, of retrofitting, of installing new systems and gauging the right solutions and the right approach per stadium, per facility manager. Let's start with the symptoms, right? What are some of the key signs, in your opinion, that a sports facility needs a lighting upgrade? What are the red flags?
Real easy ones there: dim or uneven lighting. It's like when you walk into a hall of a place that has, you walk in a hallway, it has old fluorescent lighting and you see different colors of the lights. Maybe it's a pinkish hue. High energy bills. One of the things that we're getting a lot of feedback from municipalities is they see that the demand charges are different. So there's two different things on a utility bill: the demand charge and the electric bill. The demand charge is, and let's say you have 20 1,500 watt metal headlight lamps on there and you flip that switch on, it causes a huge spike in the utility. They charge you a demand charge for that. And what people really don't know is the demand charges per month are more expensive than the utility cost of running those lights. So if we can reduce the wattage of that system, you can reduce your demand charges and save thousands and thousands of dollars a year. So that's the first thing, is they want to go, hey, the utility bill's going out of hand. We need to control these. And the other thing is frequent maintenance. How many times are you having to call somebody else to replace a light, to go back up there? And one goes on this pole, then you go on that pole. It can be very expensive. And long warm-up times, old metal halides. Okay, you got to turn it on. You got to leave it go for about 15 minutes to warm up. And then poor visibility. And the other thing is that you might have some light egress from the neighbors where that, you see that blob of light, you see a field and it's right in somebody's living room, or, the back patio window. You can now control that light of where it goes with an LED where you can do it with metal halide.
So some of those warning signs are pretty obvious, right? They're kind of staring you in the face. But I imagine that there are still a lot of friction points or kind of different things to weigh that a facility manager has to think through and has to prioritize or balance, which might encourage them to put that off and say, yeah, I know I need to do this, but maybe I need to wait another year, or I've got these improvements I need to prioritize first. What would you say are some of the risks or the challenges that come from delaying lighting upgrades, right? If it's always that secondary thing that I'll get to it next year, I'll wait for the budget boost thing, how does that start to compound into larger challenges and issues for a facility?
Well, that is a great question. I mean, it continues to increase your maintenance costs because
right.
you're putting a Band-Aid on it every month. And also your utility costs continue to rise, because I don't know about exactly where you live, but they're not going down anywhere these days. And they're
No,
going to continue to go
not
higher.
for us. Yeah.
In the school districts and the communities and whoever has those fields uses a tremendous amount of lighting. So it's going to continue to grow. So, but they also don't realize, they think that I got to put this in a budget. I got to get a school bond to do this or some other municipal way to do it. We can fund those. They can be funded today. What people don't realize about LED retrofits, and it's the biggest challenge for us sometimes is you think it's a no-brainer. Look, you're going to save 50 to 75% of your energy cost. That's just without lighting controls. That's just changing the lights out. And you can't afford to do it, but we can finance it so you actually pay less than you gain back in the savings every month. And it pays off in 3 to 5 years. And when you really do the math, it's a slam dunk. It makes so much sense for people to do it.
This brings up another important dynamic, which is that facility managers are just one layer of decision making. You'd expect they are, the ones that can gauge the needs of the facility the best, obviously, but they're not the only set of stakeholders that need to be brought to the table when it's time to invest in something like upgraded lighting for your stadium. I mean, you start to bring in the experiential marketing team who might want to leverage that for their own needs. You may have larger executive leadership that needs to sign off on things. Let's not forget your CFOs and your controllers who are weighing the budget. So what are your thoughts or strategies on how facility managers can try to build more buy-in from key stakeholders when they identify these issues, they come to the decision, it's time to invest, right? And now they're pitching it internally. What do you find are some of the common pushbacks from other stakeholders, and how would you advise that they approach that and build better buy-in?
Well, I mean, that's not really a difficult question, because there are electrical contractors, and we are one as well. And they just, hey, change this light, put this new LED in there, great. And we do some of those jobs.
Great.
But if you really want to do it properly, you work with somebody that has lighting expertise that's going to give you a photometric layout, working with this overlay of your field, show you what you have today, show you what you're going to have when you change it, show you the ROI. You said that early on. The ROI is the most important thing. If we can show you the ROI and the savings you're going to have, then you get that to all the right people, and it typically sells itself. And they go, okay, let's try one. We'll try one on a field, and if it works well, okay, we're going to do the other fields.
And you mentioned the funding around this too. Are there any little tips and tricks or hacks you would recommend for, whether it's grants or rebates or incentive programs to offset investment in something like a new lighting system, especially with the energy savings side of things, right? Tapping into, green building rebates or whatnot. What are some of the tips and tricks that you recommend?
Well, certainly we go back to the utilities, and if a utility offers a lighting rebate, number one, just for the install and the reduction in the kilowatt hours is the first way to do it. The second way is, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people aren't recognizing the demand charge. If you've ever seen a utility bill, when they turn on, there's always a demand charge, and that's from turning on their sports lighting. And a lot of smart people are starting to see that financially in municipalities and cities and school districts and saying, hey, this is a huge spend for us. And maybe we can go ahead and affect change right now and save the district money, because I don't know about, again, where your schools are, but most schools struggle to have enough money to educate their kids, and their maintenance budgets are taxed every day. And so if you can save them teacher salaries, and you can get 5 more teachers if you do your lighting retrofit. People don't put that in a process like that where they think of, wow, these guys are saving us money that would take us this long to make doing something else. And it really pays for itself with somebody that's visionary, and somebody that understands the benefits of the less maintenance, the increased usage of their fields, the usage of the people liking everything, and the things that they can do, and they don't have to worry about it.
So now let's walk through the process of actually, facilitating a transformation of sports lighting systems. Right. What do you see as some of the most common mistakes that facilities make when they start planning a lighting upgrade? Where do they misstep, or maybe over or underestimate certain costs or investments or operational challenges? And what are your tips for avoiding those pitfalls?
Well, that's a great question. I think a lot of times what happens is a typical mistake is they treat LED lighting as a commodity, and we're selecting it based solely on cost, and assuming that all LEDs are equal in quality, and that can lead to poor performance, inadequate light levels, and incompatible fixtures. So what you need to do is conduct a lighting audit. Have somebody come in there, assess the current light levels, pole conditions, and facility. You can use the light meters and all that to give them the before and the after. But engage with professionals that know what they're doing. I mean, we can work with experienced lighting designers or suppliers. I mean, certainly FSG can do that. There's lots of people that do that wherever market you're in. Bring somebody in that knows what they're doing, that can present you with a tailored proposal that lists all of those things we just talked about, including the ROI, the benefits of going that way, and evaluate the total cost of ownership. And see, another thing people don't always realize, hey, we're just going to take this fixture off and put another one on. Nobody never thinks of the poles. How long have the poles been? Are they rusty? Can that pole now handle 5 or 10 new, maybe heavier fixtures that are LED, even though, or maybe less of them, but more weight, because they don't think about the wind rating and the condition of the pole. That has to be part of your proposal as well, because nobody wants to see a pole fall down with a bunch of light fixtures on it.
Right.
That's not a good thing.
No, that's probably the last thing you want to see. Yeah,
it absolutely is. And sometimes people forget that. We'll just change this one out with that, which you can do today. A lot of manufacturers just have pretty much a 1-for-1. You can take one off and put another one on there, aim it, and you're good. And that may work for some people, but we always suggest you need to get a photometric layout so you know exactly what kind of coverage, because the other part of that is, depending on what your IES conditions are or scholastic lighting needs are, like some football fields need to be 50-foot candles, and some are lit or 30 or 20, any kind of sports lighting, volleyball, basketball. And if you go in some of these venues today, you may find, I sometimes do that. I have a light meter on my phone. I'll say, well, this is 10-foot candles. It's not very good, but everybody's used to it. So it's the underperformance of what they currently have. And if you show them how they can meet all those needs, typically they decide they want to move forward in some way, some manner.
Yeah, and it's interesting how an upgrade can introduce new operational challenges too. Like let's say the team that plays in that venue is used to the poor lighting conditions, and they've kind of just adjusted to how they train and play in poor lighting. Now the lighting improves. It is a net improvement, but the team still has to adjust. Everyone still has to adjust. The fans have to kind of adjust to the new environment. And so not that that's a reason not to invest, but it is curious, just to bring up another sort of domino here, that even positive investments can open doors that facility managers need to take into account and need to at least properly coordinate on with some of these other stakeholders, like with the head coach of the team that's going to be playing on that field now. Heads up, your players should expect this now. It's going to be a little brighter. It might take a little bit of time for them to adjust, et cetera, et cetera. So, those cascading effects are very interesting to think about. But, I'm glad you bring up the sport dynamic itself, because it's true. There are different lighting requirements for different sports, whether we're talking football, tennis, baseball, indoor versus outdoor. How do those lighting requirements differ? If you could give us a high-level overview, and why is it important to think about the primary sports or events that are taking place in your venue when you're deciding your lighting? Why does that matter as a decision-making process?
Well, it matters. In an example, if we're doing high schools all the time, you have to go back to the UILs. In Texas, we call it the University Interscholastic League venues. For different fields, it requires different foot candles. For example, it's field size, it's ball size, speed size, competition level. So in football, you really need between 20 to 140 foot candles, depending on amateur versus professional. Even if it's tennis, if it's baseball, the higher the grade of player you have, the higher the light is required and actually is demanded by the statutes and by the rules that people put in for the Illuminating Engineering Society. And plus you want to have anti-glare and flicker-free lighting. So all these things, little things people don't think about. Like tennis needs 28 to 90 foot candles. It may be tennis is fine if you're at the country club, 20 foot candles. But if you're playing in professional indoors, you need 90 foot candles. And it's tremendous. And baseball, you need 45 to 140 foot candles, and higher levels for infield due to fast moving balls for all your infielders. So uniformity and vertical illuminance are key for outfield player and spectator viewing as well. So yeah, they're all different. They're all set up differently. The poles are higher. So again, how much light do you need if it's a 100-foot pole versus a 50-foot pole or a 30-foot pole? All those things come into it. It's not just as easy as saying, hey, let's just go put some new lights out there.
So let's start to wrap up by looking at a real world use case here. I'd love to learn from you and communicate to our audience an example from your work specifically. And, if you need to go a little anonymous with who we're talking about here, feel free. But I'd love to ground this around a real case study or a real world example, right? Where y'all worked on and facilitated a successful sports lighting upgrade. What were some of the key challenges, the needs? What was the process like? What were the results, right? Walk us through what we can learn from that case study or example that comes to mind.
Well, there's a lots of case studies out there. I mean, I have one I looked at that was done at Dartmouth, and it was a big one. We didn't do that job. We've done a lot of different ones, but we're working a lot more on the municipal side and the municipal fields, where we're going back in there and doing a 1-for-1, which is really a cost effective for schools and cities, because they can typically go in and just replace that one with one. We re-aim it. We give them a photometric. It's much more even lighting. Some of the most difficult parts of making sure you're aiming the fixtures properly, because it's really. I was just on a job the other night where we're doing one we're working on right now, and we have a little bit of unevenness in the lighting, so we had to get our guys out there to kind of re-aim the lights to make it all smooth and even. That's pretty much the easiest. The hardest problems is making sure everybody's happy. But once they're done, you basically close it up and everybody's happy. But typically when this Dartmouth one I brought up, is they wanted to upgrade their field house from metal halide with intelligent controls. Again, we bring up controls. We did 2 years ago, we did a football field with RGB lights in the stands, all the regular lighting of 5,000 Kelvin lightings in the field. It came out beautiful. And so when they score a touchdown now, they can press a button and it's like, woohoo, all the different lighting, the different colors around. It's just awesome. It took a little while for them to get used to the programming of it, but it really wasn't a problem after that. And they're so happy with it. And other people say, hey, I want to do that to my field too. So, but we are seeing, once we get one done, somebody says, okay, do the rest of my fields. Oh, we're going to tell the next city over to look at this, look at what our fields are. And word of mouth travels really fast. But you got to have the right people in place to do that. We are kind of a seamless. We do start to finish. So we have our own bucket trucks, and we can get guys up there 50, 80 feet on the bucket trucks, and we do a total turnkey solution, which is a lot easier for some clients than saying, I'm going to pick this light and I'm going to pick this contractor to put it in. There are lighting specialty companies like FSG that really know what they're doing with the light, that aren't just a contractor putting it up. So we know all those nuances of the aiming and the right, all the right photometric layouts and all that kind of thing.
All right, Dan, I think we're approaching the end of the conversation here. Thanks for all of your insights so far. I want to wrap things up with a final piece of actionable advice for facility managers who are listening in. For facility managers who've now watched this and they've done some reflecting and they've decided, okay, maybe it's time. Our hallways have the flickering lights. Things are too dim. We have no LED. It's time for an upgrade. What is the first step they should take, right? What is step one, maybe even step two? Who should they talk to? What should they prepare? Like, where do you start with so many moving pieces and things to consider?
Well, that's a great question too. Most people that are in those businesses are controlling those dollars and controlling those facilities have people. They have somebody that they count on for that. They can either ask a question or they have a lighting person. For example, they have FSG now. So the main thing is to pick up the phone and call somebody, because you can and have them conduct a lighting audit. Lighting audits are free. We can come out there, we can ascertain that. And it's amazing today where we can do less work than it used to be, because we can actually work on Google Earth and we can pull up your field, and we can give you a pretty easy estimate on a photometrics and what it's going to cost you to do your facility. So you've got a free estimate. We can tell you exactly what we think it's going to need. And then you can decide, hey, this is how much we think it's going to cost. We can give a budgetary number, or you can give a firm number. And then you define the goals. What are their goals? Cost savings, safety. If they're doing filming like college, broadcast quality, we got to be able to do it for the TV, cameras. It's amazing. There are some schools that do that too. High schools and colleges. I mean, of course, colleges do, but even high schools are starting to film their games and starting to put it out there streaming these days. So, and also the competition level requirements, because your lighting expert is going to know what those requirements are and going to help you to meet those, all the different steps you need to do the right job. And they're going to give you a total turnkey solution. And so I call it the one throat to choke, process. I mean, you do it for us to start to finish, and we're the guy. We handle it. If you got a problem, we're going to come fix it. And somebody that's got some relationships with manufacturers that they know that they can depend on those customers and those products to last like they're supposed to, and back them with a warranty. That's another expensive part too. That people forget. There is a warranty. Work with the company that's going to honor that warranty. And don't buy the cheapest one. It's not cheapest one's not always the best one.
Yeah. Good life advice there for sure. Sometimes the price point is an indicator of quality.
True.
Dan,
very much so.
Thank you so much, Dan, for your time today. This has been very insightful. Again, it sounds like the best strategy for facility managers listening to this that have assessed and come to the decision that it's time for a lighting upgrade for their sports venue is to find the right partner to help walk you through what that process is actually going to look like, right? Get on the phone, get a lighting audit done, get a sense for what you need to invest in, and then you can lay out a strategy, bring the right contractors to the table, build internal buy-in, and start to develop a better experience that saves you money on everything from efficiency, around energy costs, to, decreased maintenance costs, to hopefully increased revenue as well from what you can do with a stadium that now has these fixtures. So again, it all starts with the right guidance and the right partner. So Dan, thank you for all this insight and all the detail and the stories as well to help ground some of this. This has been really great, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Daniel. Nice meeting you. You have a great day. Thank you.
And if folks want to learn more, Dan, about FSG's role in this space, the work you've done, and how they can get in touch, right, where should we point them?
Just go to FSG.com and you can go ahead and find out what we do, and you reach out to, we have a guide team. Wherever you're at in the country, you can reach out to them, and we will get you in touch with our closest local branch or somebody that can help them.
All right, easy enough. You heard it here first, folks. FSG.com for all your sports lighting upgrade needs. Dan McLaughlin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode of FSG's podcast. Again, we were chatting with Dan McLaughlin, Director of Sales at FSG Dallas. If you like what you heard and saw today, and you want to tap into more episodes of the podcast, you want to get a sense for some of the other big trends shaping facilities and how FSG plays a role in meeting those challenges head on, head to our website, FSG.com, subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And of course, to learn more about our solutions and services, you can head to our website, again, FSG.com. And that does it for today's episode. I'm your host, Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B. We'll catch you on the next one, and take it easy.